Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Saturn Sextile or Trine one's natal Mars. Now, this transit could manifest in the career, hard work, father, authority figures, responsibilities, discipline, and structure, being in harmony with actions and your vitality and physical strength. And I'm going to elaborate and expound on that. This is a time when you have this transit that you have really, the father, I would say, is more in favor, of your actions. It can be a time where you have the physical energy, for hard labor. If the transit Saturn is in Capricorn, say that hard labor may be connected with construction or, architecture, something, anything that could be Capricorn related. It may be a time as well when you have this transit. This is about having that energy and the vitality for career-related matters, for hard labor. If the transit Saturn, say, was in Sagittarius, it could be something with printing press operation or publishing or advertising, and it can be something to when this transit does take place. It's really a positive transit for taking action in matters with your responsibilities as well, and being able to have the drive and motivation to do this more so than you ordinarily would. Again, Mars is connected with our energy and vitality, its physical strength. It's having the physical strength, the stamina, the energy to take care of responsibilities at this time. And if the transit Saturn is in Taurus, it could be monetary responsibilities or hard labor that could be associated with it. Could even be carpet laying or doing something with agriculture, architecture, gardening, cultivation, as some other examples during this transit. And it's also a very auspicious time for very disciplined actions and being able to be consistent with what you're doing. You might do things in a more, could be very propitious for doing things in a more regimented manner at this time, more so than usual, having certain, times of doing things, being able to like organize like a schedule as far as your actions may go. And it's also time when you have this transit. It's about really not just the father but authority figures and older people in general can be more in favor of what you're doing, your actions, what drives you and motivates you at this time. If you have Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn, it could be simply being successful. It really is what drives and motivates you. Could be what drives and motivates you. As an example, in those people that I described that correspond with Saturn, can be more in harmony with that, more agreement with this energy at this time. And the thing about this transit too, keep in mind Mars, anatomically speaking, is connected with the head, the skull, the face, and sexual organs. So if there's any issues that you've had with these body parts that I just described that are anatomically associated with Mars, this could be the time more so than usual you'd be apt to take responsibility for. If you've been procrastinating or hesitating on these matters, this is the time more so than you ordinarily would to actually do something about it, because it's a time that where you're perceiving these things as more of a serious nature, and you wouldn't be taking, really what it comes down to is you likely wouldn't be taking those issues lightly at this time. And the thing about this too is this transit, okay, it's also about being disciplined with matters, with anger and acrimony. It's a time where if there's any issues with anger, there's more likely for you. This could be a good opportunity to let that out in a more constructive manner, whether it's hitting a punching bag or getting involved in some kind of sports competition at this time. Something where you're not doing, it's not being, unleashed in a way where it could be destructive. And it's a time to really to channel, you might be able to channel this into more of a positive matter in more constructive ways than you ordinarily would. Now, it's also a time where Mars is about courage and bravery. So this could be, the transit where the father, older people, authority figures, may admire you more for your courage at this time. And also time, it could be positive for standing up, for the father at this time, and doing so in a way where you're not having great repercussions as a result of it, being able, to speak out, on his behalf, as an example. And, if somebody's giving, this person, saying negative things about your father, something as an example, and you want to do something, to say something, to act out in a way where you're showing courage and standing up for this person. This could be more, the opportune time to do so. And again, the father, older people, authority figures may be more admire your, I would say, your drive and your motivation at this time to do things. And if the say for example, if the natal Mars is in the zodiac sign Cancer, you might be strongly driven and motivated for introverted activities, doing things around the home, things that are nostalgic, things associated with collectibles, or even could even be simple things like plumbing or laundry or cooking. Those are the things that may drive and motivate you. I understand my natal Mars is in the zodiac sign Cancer, so I can relate to this position and placement. And it may be a time where you're actually you have discipline, energy in those matters, and also where older people, the father, authority figures may be more in agreement with this. That as far as what drives and motivates you at this time more so than usual. And the thing about this transit as well, Mars is connected with physical injuries, so it's a time where if you have to take care of this physical related injuries, this is the time where you're more apt to take responsibility for it at this time, more so than usual. It could be about being that authority on the base, so to speak, figuratively speaking, understanding, the problems and doing something about them. If you're doing some rehab, this could be the time for very disciplined energy and doing something that may be regimented, having a certain time where you're going to, like, say, work out and rehab the injury, where it's a time just, again, simply have taking responsibility, for these issues. If you have, say the natal Mars in Libra, there might be some, issues with the kidney or the lower back or the endocrine system. If you have natal Mars going back to natal Mars being in the zodiac sign Cancer, it could be some issue or injury with the chest, the breast, the stomach, or the ribs, as some examples. Now, this is also applying to surgery as well, because Mars can be associated with surgery. Say if you have the natal Mars in Scorpio, there may be something surgical that may be imminent, that may be associated with the colon, the prostate, the bladder, the reproductive system, that you might have to take care of. If you have any issues with that, as an example, and say if your Mars is in Scorpio, this could be the time where you'd be more apt to take the responsibility for that and do something about those issues. And it can also a time too, if you're in a position where you're at a job and you're a subordinate or subservient role, where the authority figure, supervisor, can be more in favor to give you the time off without giving as much resistance as usual, perhaps. So anyway, it's also a time to really to have concentration on things where you're taking the initiative, whether it's helping a fellow employee or whatever it might be doing, that's connected with initiative. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, be like if you're trying to just help somebody, show how something works, whether it's a garbage compactor or a printing press or something where you could be showing a fellow employee, as an example, how something is operated without having somebody else have to cajole you to show them what to do, taking, it upon yourself and showing initiative. This could be a positive time for doing and showing. You could be like that authority on what it is that you're explaining to somebody without being coming across as arrogant, as an example. And it could also be a time where it's also a positive timing. Mars is about combat and confrontation, and this is a time for where people, this could be an auspicious time where older people or the father may be encouraging you to do something as far as confronting and, something or somebody. It could just simply be an issue. You may be dealing with it, whether it's regarding yourself or with some enemy. This is a time where you can get that, maybe that sound advice from these people on what to actually do if you're unsure of how to handle a situation that might involve some confrontation. Now, next thing, as far as this goes, another way this transit could manifest, it could be about responsibility, being able to take responsibility, which is Saturn, to confront, which is Mars, someone. And again, reiterating what I was basically stating previously, if the natal Mars is in Aquarius, say it's in Aquarius in the 5th house, it could be a rebellious or non-conforming, which is Aquarius, a child, which is the 5th house. Now, another thing too is that this transit can be about the father, which is Saturn, being in harmony and agreement with what drives and motivates you, which is Mars. If the natal Mars is in Aries in the 11th house, as an example, it could be fighting, which is Aries, for human rights, which is the 11th house. Now, it also could be auspicious for planned and premeditated, which is Saturn, actions, which is Mars. Let's say, for example, if the natal Mars is in Libra in the in the 9th house, it could be a lawsuit, which is Libra. It could be versus a publishing company, which is the 9th house. Now, another thing too, this transit could be propitious for laborious work, which is Saturn. That you have the energy and enthusiasm, which is Mars for. Let's say, for example, if the transit Saturn is in Scorpio in the 8th house, it could be something with forensics and crime, which is Scorpio. Could be reconstruction, which is the 8th house, because remember, the 8th house is connected with regeneration and rebirth. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.